change feels funny. Whenever you do anything different, it's always going to feel funny. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And you have to be willing to allow that funny, awkward, uncomfortable feelings into your life, knowing that it will get better. When you practice, you get better. When we first learned to walk, it was awkward and uncomfortable, but you do it and you progress. Your first job, it's uncomfortable. Your first radio interview, it's uncomfortable. You don't like it. You want to resist and go back into your comfort zone. But if you want to succeed, you have to get out of your comfort zone, feel uncomfortable, and do things you need to do to move you forward. And then you get comfortable and it becomes easy. And then another challenge comes along and you need to face that challenge and deal with that one. And you need to feel uncomfortable and awkward and self-conscious all over again. And it's just that process.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest today, Susan Sherbert. But before I introduce you to her, I have a quote for you. Larry King said, "I love doing what I do. I love asking questions. I love being in the mix." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Susan, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Oh, absolutely. I've got plenty of stories and insights to share, so I'm absolutely ready to go.
Thank you for joining us today, Susan. Susan Sherbert is a storyteller with a unique message about the power of childlike thinking. She helps adults embrace their dreams, remove limiting beliefs, and discover the magic found in the mindset of a child. Let Susan take you on a journey back to your imagination and beyond. Susan, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Sure. I'm a writer, and an author, and a speaker, and also a business owner. And my passion that I write and talk about is about helping adults learn to think like a little child. It's about the power of childlike thinking. And as a business owner, a lot of times that turns people off, but there's so much power in your life if you could think like an excited little child. So, Neil, if you don't mind, I want to start with a story that will help set the stage. Yep. And the story is called A Scary Jelly Bean. And if you remember the movie Harry Potter, there was a scene where they were talking about jelly beans, every flavor, dirt, grass, sardines, just every flavor jelly bean you can talk about. Now, they made a box of these, and I happened to find a box of every flavor jelly beans. And I was excited, and I had a whole bunch of adults sitting at my table. I think it was Thanksgiving or something one year. And so I thought, I'm going to share these jelly beans with all these grown-ups, just kind of keep things a little bit exciting and entertaining. And as I was putting the jelly beans in the bowl, I couldn't tell the difference on the speckles between the Tutti Frutti and the vomit. And it was gross. I mean, the vomit was really bad. But the Tutti Frutti and the vomit, everything, all the flavors went in the bowl. Now, if I hand that bowl to a 4-year-old, and I use 4-year-old as my example because if we could all think like a 4-year-old, I mean, our life would be very different. So if I were to hand that bowl of jelly beans to a 4-year-old, they would take one. They'd be excited. They would hope they get the Tutti Frutti, and they would just, be full of emotion and joy. Even if they got the vomit, it's still, oh yeah, I got the vomit. Gross. Look at the bad. Their life is exciting and they enjoy it, and it doesn't matter what it is. They take what life comes and they're excited. Now, if I go back to this table of grown-ups and I hand them this bowl of jelly beans, They don't even want to take one. Just the fact there's one bad bean in the whole bowl, the resistance and the fear is so strong, they don't want to play, they don't want to take one, they don't want to risk getting that bad jelly bean. So the whole point of the childlike thinking is when life hands you those flavorful bowl of opportunities, do you react like the excited little child, or do you react like the fearful adult that we've grown up to become? Mm-hmm. And I use that story because to me it's very symbolic and it shows how we have changed. Because we were all little kids once, but we have grown up to become fearful adults that complicate things and make things a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
Okay. And how do you make money from what you're doing at present, Susan?
I'm selling my book, mm-hmm. and I'm starting to do speaking engagements. I've got a couple of women's group that I'm speaking. I've got one event in about 3 weeks where I'm speaking in the morning and the afternoon. And so right now it's all about selling the books. Mm-hmm. And it's a passion. I've been working on it for about 20 years, and I'm now ready. I could say I wasn't ready before, but my dream is now ready. I've got a very quality book. I got an endorsement from Entrepreneur Magazine. I've got a publisher that's involved. So pieces that I've been working on for years have finally come together, and I thoroughly believe in this book. Mm-hmm. And so it's on Amazon. It's there. It's ready. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. People that are reading it, they get excited and they want that word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So I'm just getting ready to start the dream on something that I've been working on for 20 years.
Yeah, and obviously you've got your printing business as well that you make money from as well, don't you? So
right, yeah. So it's kind of really balancing that. It's running that printing business, and there's when I look back, I can see how the two work together. And, I didn't see it at the time. I'm running the printing business and trying to pursue my passion of writing, and I didn't realize how the two really work together. Mm-hmm. And now that they're working together, and one's keeping me, getting the money going, but it's also allowing me the freedom and the passion. And like I said, you get stuck in things and you just don't see it. But now I realize the value along the way.
So you've told us that story, and I get the message. I understand what you're saying, but how do you fix people with your book in terms of this story you've told us?
So this second book, the first book was about adults having fun, mm-hmm. and obviously I couldn't sell that to businesses because businesses aren't interested about fun. If you were, retired or an adult that's just had a boring life and you want to, get out of your rut, that first book was good. But the second book developed because the power of childlike thinking, that freedom, that creativity, that passion, all of the qualities of a child, I couldn't let it go. I had to keep pushing and pushing because I knew there was a lot of value in it. So the second book is called A White Hat and Rose-Colored Glasses, and it's all about clarity and action. You need to wear the rose-colored glasses so you can see what you need to see. You need to see where you're stuck. You need to see the obstacles. You need to see the reality and the truth, and you need to see what you need to see. And then you need to put on the good guy hero white hat and do what you need to do. You need to take the right actions. You need to never give up. You need to just keep trying. You need to face your fears. You need to actually combine the awareness, that aha moment, follow it up with the right actions. And if you have clarity and action, that will change just about anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I think it's helping other people, and it's that taking that inspirational moment where I can simplify things down. I mean, that story of the jelly bean, I feel my strength is being able to take something kind of complicated, simplify it so adults can say, I get it. I mm-hmm. see what you mean. And so that's sort of my unique ability, which I really like to be able to do, that creative side of taking complicated things that adults do. Why are adults being so silly like that? And simplify it down and saying, I get it. Bringing that awareness to people and businesses so that they can make the changes mm-hmm. necessary. I can't make the changes for them, but if I can bring awareness so that they can make their changes, that's, I'm successful.
Yeah. So why do you think adults do think like this?
The number one reason I believe is fear. And it all comes, I've done a lot of thought and reading and research and everything for the book. And to me, it comes down to the fact that, like, as little kids, our parents kept us safe. We didn't have to worry about fear and the things that hurt us and harm us and bad feelings and everything else. As a little 4-year-old, none of that came into your world. You just lived your life the way you wanted without fears and anxiety because your parents took care of your fears. But what happens as adults is our adult brain is programmed to see the negative information first. Our nice dreams and things that we want and that excite us are good and we like them, but the positive messages aren't threatening. They aren't gonna hurt us or harm us. And so our brain is programmed to focus and see the negativity. And so what happens as adults is we just forget our dreams and we have to push them aside because that negativity becomes our focus. So we forget to dream, we forget to imagination, we forget to create. All of those fantastic positive emotions and thoughts that we have get pushed aside because our adult brains have this need to protect us and trying to make us safe, which is a good thing, and that's what we need to do as adults. But my whole point on the rose-colored glasses is that I believe we need to see both the positive and the negative. There are two sides. And that negative is so powerful and sticky. I just want you to say, hey, okay, it's maybe not as bad as you think. There's probably a lot of positive things to go with it. Let's look at both sides and make a good, educated decision based on the fact that the outcome could be positive or negative without that negativity skew that is very much in the adult world.
Mm-hmm. And what is it that drives you?
I have this passion for, I think like a kid. I realized this early on, that my brain processes the world like a little kid. And I just, for years and years and years, could not understand why adults do such silly things. I have a party and say, hey, come play croquet. No, I can't. I won't. So adults, they don't want to play. They forget to dream. And I have a psychology degree. I started out with a psychology degree. And I think the whole passion of everything started with me helping adults, almost shaking them, saying, don't look at what you're doing. Why are you, so negative? Why can't you enjoy life and be fun and live your dreams and things like that? So it's really that passion of helping people understand that you can't have a dream. You need a big, bold, exciting dream. And I want to help you find your dreams and, make the world a better, happier place.
Mm-hmm. In fact, your dream has to be that big that when you tell other people, it makes them laugh.
Well, that's perfect segue into a perfect story. So here's a story about the dreams. And then once again, is the adult child thing. So I was reading all of these, self-help books, and everyone said, you need a big, bold dream. You need something that, is a dream. Not a goal, because goals are manageable and they're much more in the adult realm because the goals are reality-based. But dreams are child-based, where they're big, bold, huge, almost impossible. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I needed a big dream, something that's going to push me, something that's, beyond, the reality. And so one day I had just taken up golf. And so I came and I said, you know what? I'm going to golf every golf course in California. That's the state I live in. And I'm excited about that. Awesome. I have a big, bold dream. I'm going to golf every golf course in California. How fun is that? It's going to take me a lifetime to do it. And I'm excited, and all of that childhood energy comes. And so I go to my golf buddies who are very reality-based adults, and I take this big, bold, exciting dream and say, guess what? I'm going to golf every golf course in California. And my grown-up buddies, who are my friends, did what most grown-ups do, and they squashed your dream with reality, saying, you can't do that. How are you going to get onto the private courses? How are you going to get onto that course? You don't have time to do that. You can't. There's too many. Do you even know how many courses there are? And so adults, even though we're trying to be helpful, it's that negativity. You focus on the negative, and they squash people's dreams. Mm-hmm. Well, when I could talk about the awareness, it's my dream. I need to keep it alive. I need to keep that little spark and not let reality-based adults squash it. So I decided I'm going to keep the dream alive. I don't care what you say. I'm going to pursue that. So I went out and I found a book, 864 courses in the book. That's awesome. So now I have sort of that guideline or, the adult goal of, okay, now I've got 864 courses to go. And I just kept keeping that dream alive despite what my friends say. And a very unusual thing happened is that once they realized that I was going to pursue my dream with or without them, suddenly they became believers in my dream. They're, who do I know who could get you onto that private course? Or, well, this week let's golf someplace else so we can check another golf course off your book. And so with these whole dreams, is one, you have to have that dream. You have to keep it alive. And so I was telling this story to a group of women golfers. And I was telling that, and one of the women, I asked a lot of the women, do you have any dreams? Is there something that you'd like to do? And I said to the woman, would you like to golf maybe Pebble Beach, California course? She says, I can't do that. I can't afford it. And I looked straight at her and I said, you squashed that dream before you even gave it a second to grow. You didn't even think about the possibility that it is possible for you to do that. You didn't give that dream one even ounce to grow. You squashed it. And throughout lunch, she sat next to me. I did squash it. Oh my gosh, I did. Look at that. I did. She could have her family give her the round of golf for an anniversary. She could win the lottery. Who knows? The possibility. The sheer power of the possibility is enormous.
So what you're really saying is, with your dreams, you've got to be careful, beware of dream stealers and also self-sabotage.
Yeah, people don't mean to do it, but you can't take it personally. They're not out to get you. That's just them being adults, and it's up to you to take that dream. And when you first have a little dream, it's a teeny tiny seed that's very, very, infantile, and it needs nurturing and protecting. And you just can't listen to them, and you just have to say, "That's my dream. I'm going to do it. I don't know how," because adults are very, how is you going to do it? How are you going to do it? I don't know, but it's my dream, and I'm holding on to it, and I'm not letting go. Mm-hmm. So it's one, finding the dream, and then two, it's holding on to it and just keeping it alive. It might take you 6 months. It might take you 6, 12, 15 years, but you need that dream, and you need to keep it alive, no matter what other people say. Even whatever life brings you. Even my first book, it took almost 20 years. I would take it to a publisher, get it rejected, put it in the drawer, sit in the drawer for 6, 8 months, and then I would go back and get it out, revise it, make it better, improve it, send it off to a publisher again. And the process just went on and on and on. And what I realized was how much growth I had. Every time it went out, it was better. I was stronger. It didn't defeat me. And it just kept going and going and going. And now my second book is just about ready to explode. So it's good. You have to keep those dreams alive.
Absolutely. And how do you relax when you're not working in your business? You're going to say playing golf, aren't you?
Golf, yeah. I absolutely am. Golf. Writing and golf. Those are sort of my two favorite things. And in fact, the golf kind of changed my life because I worked at the printing shop for quite a few years, and the owner retired and I bought him out. And then all of a sudden, suddenly I became a business owner. But I always thought of myself as a little girl behind the counter making copies because that's where I came from. So here I am, a business owner with employees and payroll and all the headaches and everything, but I didn't own it. I still sort of was that, try to be friends with everybody and still sort of that girl, one of the gang and one of the girls making, copies. And I thought, I really need to own this business owners. I need to do something to change everything. And it was one of those lightning moments where it came to me. I need to take up golf. Business owners golf. That's what business owners do. I went out that exact same day, signed up for 5 lessons, took 5 lessons, learned the basics, started playing in charity golf tournaments, met up with a friend who wanted me to golf every week. And I'm like, I can't golf every week. I have a business to run. I have things to do. And I had to stop myself because I'm the business owner. And if I want to be a business owner, in order to own it, I need to say, yes, I can golf Tuesday mornings because I'm a business owner, and that's what business owners do. That's not what the little girl behind the counter would do, but that's what a business owner would do. So when I signed up to play golf every Tuesday with my friends. I became a business owner. I can take anything that the whole week gives me. I will work evenings. I will work weekends. But Tuesday morning, I take time for myself, which is a priority because you have to prioritize what's important in your life. And I golf on Tuesday mornings, and that made me a business owner because I took the risk. I saw the fact, oh no, I can't do it. And I had to stop myself and be aware to say, I'm a business owner. Why can't I do it? And it just changed that whole mentality, and I became a business owner, and I owned the business, and I was no longer that little girl because I owned it, and it all kind of started from that awareness of playing the golf.
And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Yeah. My father did growing up. My father had a couple of businesses, nothing that successful. He's successful now, but growing up, he was going to Europe and buying cars and bringing back and selling them, and had a couple of other businesses I wasn't that involved with. But I also go back to the printing shop. I worked in the printing shop for quite a few years before the owner retired. I bought him out, and I remember there was sort of two people, and a couple of the employees would sit and they would read their entertainment magazines, and they would look on their phones, and they would do, just regular normal stuff. But I always knew that I was going to do something better. So I'm watching what the business owner's doing. I'm studying. I'm going to the library and getting sales books. I'm reading motivational books. I knew that I was going to do something in the entrepreneur business at some point. So when the owner retired, I was the person that he came to say, hey, I'm going to retire. Buy me out. I see that you're working very hard. I know that you're ready. And so you just sort of, it was interesting because he used to sit in the back office and do all kinds of paperwork. And I always used to think, why is he always here? Why is he every night? He must not have a life because he's always here. Well, when he retired and I became the owner, oh my gosh, how did he do it so fast and so effectively? I never understood half of what he was doing until you get thrown in and become a business owner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think what you're trying to say there was that you're the difference in your mindset was that rather than spending your time working or sort of catching up on the latest celebrity gossip and things, you were actually investing your time in developing yourself, weren't you? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I always knew that I would do something, different. I saw the business owner that I worked for, and I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to be like him, and I'm going to do something bigger and better, And if it kind of goes back to that dream, I knew that someday I would sort of own my own business, and I was going to do something bigger, and so I started practicing. Mm-hmm. I started practicing and building my resources and everything else because I had that dream of doing something bigger and better. Well, I better, start practicing it now because all the skills you practice now, they really come into play later. And just so many things you just don't see at the time. I didn't see all those skills that I was building, mm-hmm. but I was building them and they were very, very valuable later on.
Yeah. Can we talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
I always say that the business is like the best and the worst because you never know everything that comes with it. So when I started the business, I'd worked there, so I had a lot of valuable information. I knew the clients, I knew sort of the routine, so I had sort of a little jump start because I kind of knew what was happening. But I never knew behind the scenes, and there's so much to learn. There's stress, there's payroll, they're just like enormous things. And I remember the first time I wrote a check, I wrote $1,000 check. And at the time that was like a big deal. As a business owner, it's not a big deal. It's you still have to balance your checkbook and do all the same things. But on a business owner, it's a much bigger scale with much bigger responsibilities. And it also comes with freedoms because when I say it's the best and the worst, I remember one day I wanted to bring the dog to work. And I'm like, oh, I'm the business owner. I don't have to ask anybody. I can bring the dog to work if I want. So I'm able to bring the dog to work. But if I want to take a 2 weeks vacation, that as a business owner, that's almost impossible. How do you do that? How do you get away? Payroll? I think one of my biggest problems as an entrepreneur was the income and the fact that some months it's up, some months it's down. Some months you have money, and it's sort of people that have a regular job, they've got a regular salary, and every month they know roughly how much money is coming in. As an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to say, some months there's money, some months there's don't, and I have to be able to handle that, almost that panic of stress when, it's not there. And then it comes, and then you have to be responsible to manage those resources, knowing that, next month it may or may not be there. Mm-hmm. So little things like that really kind of notice the difference between being the employee and being the owner. Mm.
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting the business or buying the business?
There's always doubts. As adults, we live in doubt, we live in fear, we live in the resistance, and you get comfortable. The easy way to go is to get a job, but you have to face those fears. You have to face your fears, whatever it is, and the obstacle that's holding you back. You have to face it. In my book, I talk a lot about sort of fears and obstacles and removing those. I'm a business owner. I love it, and it's great, and it would never have happened if I let those fears and the resistance take over. One of the things that I find interesting is I was taking a golf lesson, and the instructor was changing my golf swing. Now, when you start golfing, you swing the same swing over and over and over again. Whatever in life you do, you build that muscle memory and you kind of repeat it. And so he started to change my swing, and I looked at him and I thought, that just feels funny. And it almost became a whole chapter in my book, in the fact that change feels funny. Whenever you do anything different, it's always going to feel funny. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And you have to be willing to allow that funny, awkward, uncomfortable feelings into your life, knowing that it will get better. When you practice, you get better. When you first learned to walk, it was awkward and uncomfortable, but you do it and you progress. Your first job, it's uncomfortable. Your first radio interview, it's uncomfortable. You don't like it. You want to resist and go back into your comfort zone. But if you want to succeed, you have to get out of your comfort zone, feel uncomfortable, and do things you need to do to move you forward. And then you get comfortable and it becomes easy. And then another challenge comes along and you need to face that challenge and deal with that one. And you need to feel uncomfortable and awkward and self-conscious all over again. And it's just that process.
Mm-hmm. That's a great explanation. Thank you. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
One of the mistakes I had is when the economy and the business crashed. I knew I had to let some employees go, and I think one of the biggest mistake I made in the business was not letting things go when I needed to. I needed to let some employees go. I maybe needed to change things. It was that resistance, I didn't act soon enough. And then you get into debt and it hurts you and everything else. And I read one of the things that, a quote somewhere that said that one of the things about great entrepreneurs is they know when to let go. Mm-hmm. They cut their losses very soon. And they don't emotionally hold on to them. They don't have false hopes that, it's going to get better and it's going to get better. They react, and they're very realistic, and they hope and they want things better, but they're not going to let the dream drag them down. They react accordingly.
Yeah.
And so it was just, the resisting. I was comfortable. It's going to get better, and I really needed to change faster than I did. So that once again is resistant to change. I knew that the changes had to be made, and I resisted them, and I didn't react fast enough.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips for some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
Once again, it goes back to dreams. You have to have the idea. You have to have the dream. You have to have the courage. Okay, I'm going to tell you another little story about how I became a writer. Mm-hmm. I was still working at the printing business. I hadn't quite become a business owner yet, and this all happened right around the same time. And I had some friends visiting me from Scotland, and they had some kids. And I don't know how or why, but I started out to write funny things for the kids to do when they came to visit. And somehow I ended up writing a 28-page book about how to short sheet a bed. I don't know if you know how to short sheet a bed, the practical joke where you put your feet in. Anyway, I wrote this book about short sheeting a bed, and I turned it in a 28-page booklet. It was kind of cute. You can't short sheet a teenager's bed because they never make it in the first place. And I had just some humor and and because I worked at the printing company at the time, I designed it, put it into a little book. And if I look at that, I go all along the way and can see all of the sort of the steps in my life. So I just did it. I had it. And then here I had this book, but what are you going to do with it? I could put it in a drawer and ignore it, or I could do something with it. And somebody had said, well, take it to one of the bedding and linen changes. They might like it. So I made decision number one. I decided to see if I just do something with it, take some kind of action. Mm-hmm. So I went into the bedding and linen store, and I couldn't see it on the shelf. So I went and I made a phone call, and I got a number from somebody in the marketing department. So here I was. I had this book. And I had the phone number of the marketing person. And once again, I could have let that go. I could have put it in the drawer and forget and, stopped it and not even pursue my dream. But I thought, what the heck? I've got a number. So I'm going to have the courage and I'm going to write a letter. So I wrote a letter and said, here's a cute little book. You could use it as a gift with purchase going back to school, with the kids going back to school with sheets or whatever. And I put that envelope and that letter and put a stamp on it, and I mailed it out. And that took courage because I had a dream. I took the risk. I took that chance. I actually did something. I put in action. And the action was, there was no risk, other than emotional risk. Mm-hmm. But okay, I'm going to take an action. And I put it out. I had no idea what was going to happen. But 2 weeks later, the woman called me back and says, we love the idea. We're going to go with it. We want 2,000 copies. And that was awesome, and that was fantastic. I took a chance. I put in the letter. She loved it. But now she wants invoices. She wants packing slips. I have to actually produce 2,000 copies of these books. I have to be able to ship them to her. All of these things. I had opened a whole box that I didn't even know and see. But she liked my work, and I became a writer that day because I took the chance and the risk to send it out. And look what happened. I became a writer. So to this day, I am writing because I took one chance by putting something in the mail and sending it out.
Mm. You've got to step over the line, haven't you, really? I think that's what you're really saying. So can we talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit, Susan? Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Yeah, it's. I mean, culture is people, mm-hmm. and people are your business. They're working for you. They're your customers. You have to be able to work with people, and people are different, and they create, people can be the best and people can create problems, and you have good customers and bad customers, and you have good employees and bad employees, and every employee I've ever had, I tended to give them a lot of freedom. And one of the things I realized is that they would always kind of push that line of freedom, almost like a little kid, where they push the boundaries. And I could see it coming, and I knew that they would step over the line. They do something, took advantage of me in some way. And I was always be able to manage them by saying, hey, I gave you that trust. You just betrayed it because you stepped over the line. Let's not let that happen again. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of it is just how you manage people as resources, people that you work with, and also your customers. You have to get them to trust you. I have a whole chapter in my book about the truth. Mm-hmm. And I think that the truth is hugely important.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Yeah. I always people talk about their parents, like what their parents did right or wrong or whatever. And as a kid growing up, my parents always said, you're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. I always knew I was going to go to college, but nobody ever asked me, what do you want to do in college? What do you want to do in your life? I probably would have majored in journalism, had I been asked, what do you want to do, rather than just be told you're going to go to college. And so it's that awareness at an early age of what's your passion, what's your desire, what you really want to do, and that kind of awareness of, don't just get stuck in the first job that you get. Really, if you have a passion or for any kind of industry, try and get your first job in the industry that you desire, rather than taking the first job that's going to, stick you where you want to go. If you enjoy cars, try and get a job somewhere sort of in the automotive industry. If you enjoy animals, get a job in that. So kind of being aware of what you enjoy and try and get something in that direction, because very often you get stuck in some place you don't want to be, and then it's really, really hard to get out.
And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
That's very interesting. How does gut feeling? It kind of varies, because sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. You have to go with your gut. With all my books and my passion, I've always known I was going to do something. Even when I was working as an employee, I knew I was going to do something better. So I suppose that is that gut feeling. Even when the business was really, really struggling and it was a downtime, I knew that I was going through that struggle for a reason. And I think the gut feeling is, if you can see a possibility bigger than the chaos that you're in, that's what will help you get you through it. Kind of that dream or that vision, or just knowing internally that there is something bigger and better beyond the chaos of the problems at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. In fact, you talked about change feels funny earlier. Some people say the only constant is change. So how do you try to keep up with change, Susan?
Growing, and as kids don't really bother change because they're not in that comfort zone. Kids like the question why, curiosity. I think curiosity is a very good way to deal with change, because when something new and different happens, you need to look at that and say, why did that happen? How can I fix it? And start asking really good questions. I think there was something on your website that I read that you talk about asking why, asking really good questions. Mm-hmm. And so change is constant. And so when you're confronted with change, rather than resist it and say, oh no, I don't like it, you need to ask, how can I make it better? How can I improve it? What can I do? All of those sort of the questions to look at why. Kids say, why? Well, that why is curious, and that curiosity to know more is what will get you through that.
That's a good answer. And what is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
But there's probably two or three. I mean, The Think and Grow Rich is, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, that one is a classic. Anything by Tony Robbins. I mean, he is one of the classic motivational. And a little more current one is Elizabeth Gilbert, who did the Eat, Pray, Love. She's got a new book out right now called Big Magic, and it's about curiosity and dreams and kind of that power of why, the power of being curious and moving forward. And that's a recent one that I read that I really am enjoying.
Okay. And how have you applied that?
Well, I've kind of become aware of her, and I went back and read some of her older stuff, and I can kind of look at the lessons. Once again, in my book, it's all about awareness. Yeah. So you take those little tidbits and little pieces of information. You read a book, and one little sentence kind of motivates you, and then it's what kind of action can I take on that one little thought that I pulled from the book.
Mm-hmm. Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you're at the gym. we have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Susan, what I'd like to do now is speculate a little bit about the future with you. What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
I would hire in the experts. I think one of the things as entrepreneurs that we very often do is we try and do it alone. And a lot of times we do that alone because we don't have the money. And so we think we have to do it alone. One example was when I was doing the second book, they needed a headshot. And, with cameras and everything else, I can take the shot myself or whatever. And I had to say, no, I need a professional. And the professional did a fantastic job. And I know that money was well spent and so much better because I got a really fantastic headshot. But at the time, you kind of think, no, I don't need an expert. I can do it myself. And really, to hire those experts, that is so valuable. You think you can't afford it, but the payback is tenfold if you just hire the right people to have the knowledge that you don't. Quit struggling on your own.
Yeah. What skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
Speaking. I'm good on the radio and podcast. When I speak in person, I need to take some more Toastmaster classes or whatever. I need maybe some acting classes. I need to be able to speak on stage because I get nervous. I talk too fast. I doubt myself. I kind of let a lot of self-doubt creep in when I'm standing in front of an audience. Mm-hmm. If it's just me in a room with a radio, that's fantastic. But when you put an audience in front of me, I probably need some acting classes, training. Right now it's uncomfortable. I need to practice more.
Yeah. It's almost, I think if you think about it, you've got to change your perspective on that and start thinking about speaking in front of people. If you think about it, you're always public speaking, whether you're speaking to me or you're speaking to somebody you know or you're speaking to someone on the stage, and somehow you've got to sort of make yourself think that it's all the same. It's easy to say it than do it.
And I'm doing it. I've got a couple of things lined up, and I'm doing it. Even like autographing the books. I got terrible handwriting, so I'm not even that comfortable autographing the books. But I know I have to do it, so you just you get on with it, and then eventually I'm going to be comfortable with it. And it's fine. I can't tell people, oh no, sorry, I can't autograph your book. That would be terrible. I don't like that part, but I know it's part of the whole bigger process. So you just accept it, you move on, and if it's not 100% perfect, well, then they get a book autographed with bad handwriting, and that's just the way it is.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I would hope I have another 3 or 4 books by then. In fact, I've got a third book that's coming. I would hope to say that I've helped the world lighten up and be a little bit happier, brighter place because I've changed lives. And I changed lives in very, very small ways by having dreams. I mean, who knows who I'm going to impact? And they may find a dream that they might have given up on, but because they listened to this podcast or because they read my book, I would like somebody to come back to me and say, you changed your life. I did this because you inspired me to change. I want to be the inspiration. I don't want to do it for anybody, but it would be nice if I could be the inspiration that helps somebody else move towards greatness.
Okay, thank you. We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Susan, what is your favorite quote and how have you applied it?
Well, there's a couple of quotes. I've got a lot of good quotes in my book. Can I do a quote that I wrote?
If you like, yeah.
Okay, one of the quotes I wrote in my book, I've got a lot of quotes, but one of my favorite quotes is, to improve your vision, close your eyes and focus. And I really like that one because it's about the vision, but not the vision of what you see with your eyes. It's about the vision that you imagine in your head and in your life. And so if you want to improve your vision, close your eyes and focus. Mm-hmm. So it all is internal. To succeed and have this big grand vision in the life you want, it comes from within.
Mm-hmm. I like that. You say you've got a second one?
I've got a lot of other ones in my book. The one that I've got right now is your actions are producing seeds. Have patience and let your efforts bloom. And I think we talked about that with the business. There's so many times in the business where I'm doing things and I don't realize that later on the blossoms and the bloom and the growth happens later. I mean, trees grow and you don't see it. And so often we are changing, we're growing, our seeds are sprouting, and we don't see it. So that your actions are producing seeds. Have patience and let your efforts bloom. Mm-hmm. Because growth happens, but we just don't always, you can't see it when you're in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any favorite online resources that you can share with us?
Nothing in particular. I just am absolutely fascinated with the whole internet, the way whole technology has changed. Mm-hmm. One of the childlike traits is awe. And as little kids, everything is just, oh my God, wow, wow, wow. The fact that you can go on to the internet and find anything you want is just almost mind-boggling. The information that you want is out there. I mean, so I don't have one particular resources. It's just the fact that every resource on the planet is now available to you. And I always find it amazing where you're at a dinner conversation and somebody, hey, do you know so-and-so? And you just get on your phone and you look at it and the answers to anything are right there on your fingertips. And I just find that absolutely fascinating.
So do you use Google?
Yeah. I use Google. I use Facebook because Facebook's for the friends. I use all the social media aspects. I also go to the library, because there's librarians there, and sometimes they're more expedient and they've got no more information than I do.
Yeah, I think
we've got libraries. Libraries are good.
Yeah, I think we've got to a point where people forget that Google is actually a toy. It's almost I said not a toy, like a tool. It's almost like it's become fresh air, and it's there.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it is an incredible thing, and obviously Facebook is similarly incredible. So yeah, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, we take it all for granted. It's just you get comfortable, you get used to it. It's just there, and it isn't until you don't have your phone or you don't have access to the internet, and then oh my God, you panic and think, how did I ever live without it?
Absolutely. And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
Well, I go back to the title of my book, Clarity and Action. It's finding the clarity. What do you want? What is important to you? What are those awareness moments? What is your passion? What is your internal vision? What's your dream? Find that clarity and follow it up with action. It doesn't have to be a big action. You just have to take some kind of action on the awareness moments that you have. Combine that clarity with your action. See what you need to see and do what you need to do. And your life will change.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Susan's favourite resource or her favourite books, you can find the links on Susan's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Susan or Susan Sherbert in the search box. Susan, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
No, it's growing and changing, and I know there'll be book number 3 because I have so much information, and that's the other thing is I think once you start, you never know where it's going to go. You have no idea how it's going to end up. I just know that there will be a book number 3, and it could be even more.
Mm-hmm. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show today, Susan. I enjoyed it. Thank you. You've provided us with some real insightful thoughts, and you've certainly inspired us today. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you. You ask some very intelligent questions that are great resources for entrepreneurs. So I appreciate all the entrepreneurial efforts you put in to helping other people find their dreams.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.